All right, let's welcome in CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie to Winnipeg Sports Talk as we head into Super Saturday in the CFL. Commish, what's going on? Welcome back to the program. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to be on. And they were just off of one of the great Labor Day weekends of all time and had a great start to the season. I'm doing great because there are so many amazing positive signals for our league. And now we're heading into what should be just a phenomenal weekend of football.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Let's quickly go back to last weekend. Especially in the West. A couple absolute barn burners. And I'm sure there's people, the majority of our audience here in Winnipeg, that didn't love the final score. But holy smokes, you got some incredible drama for the television audience and the fans that showed up for those big games on Labor Day weekend.
You know, one of the things that made me smile at the end of the game, the Riders Bombers game, is I was walking back to the hotel. I was in Regina, and I was walking back with a lot of Bomber fans. Kind of coming up, on Bomber fans, and boy, I'll tell you, what a great group. And they were, they were all to a person disappointed they lost, but they acknowledged that it is just a spectacular game, and they got to see something special. And you know what? That's one of the qualities of our league that I love the most. You can be a passionate fan, but in the end, you love good football. And you know what it also says? It just, our fans they're football smart. They're football smart. They appreciate good product, and that's what we gave them.
It had a little bit of everything. And part of it is, in my opinion, the best rivalry in the Canadian Football League. And I know there's a bunch that will contend for it, but if you were there in Regina on Labor Day weekend, you certainly saw it firsthand. And, as the Banjo Bowl grows as an event, it'll be on full display tomorrow. But that's got to be so great for the Canadian Football League when you have these annual games. But a legitimate rivalry that's competitive, but also incredibly fun off the field.
Yeah, it is. And I think the spirit of it is fun. Look, the people of Regina welcome Bomber fans. And, I was in the festival area before the game, and there were a lot of Bomber fans. I had the pleasure to take a picture with a good big group of Rider fans with their watermelon outfits, and I was standing with, we were jammed in there with a bunch of great Bomber fans, and everybody was welcome. But boy, you're right. The rivalry is special. It is certainly a intense rivalry, and now the back-to-back game. This is going to be a special game on the weekend, and one that I know all CFL fans are looking forward to. Bomber fans and Rider fans are especially looking forward to it, but everyone who's a football fan should want to see that game.
I got to tell you, the move here in Winnipeg to move the Banjo Bowl from Sunday head-to-head with week one of the National Football League to Saturday, I think it worked on a number of levels. First of all, for Saskatchewan fans, there's far more of them that actually make the trip to come in because it's not a long weekend. They've got a day to come back. But how pleased are you with the way the schedule has worked? Because at the end of the day, I think the majority of people are football fans. They're going to be fired up for NFL on Sunday. They certainly are fired up for the big games on Saturday. And the ability to watch it all as football fans on one of the most fun weekends, I think, is a move that continues to pay dividends for the CFL.
Yeah, you're right. Well, let's go back to this schedule itself. Look, I think this summer, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday was a home run. And I have had so many people just say, oh my gosh, just love the fact that I had 4 days in a row, one game. It was, and look, our TV ratings in the 25 to 54 category up almost 30%. So many things that we are measuring that are important to our future are pointing up. So the schedule itself was a huge success. As it relates to playing this game on a Saturday, and I believe it's a really smart decision. Look, what we know is this. Football fans are football fans. Our product, there are three things: fun, fast, and entertaining. You can watch other football. You watch the CFL because it delivers all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. When the ball is being kicked, whether it's on a kickoff and you've got a very good chance of something exciting happening. On the punt, you have a very good chance. We have some amazing returners in our league. Everything about our game is fun, fascinating. We want to capture the entire universe of football fans and have them watch us because what we've got is something very special.
Randy, as we go into the Banjo Bowl tomorrow, and I just talked about how this game has built momentum year over year over year, and I think this game has been sold out for the better part of a month, which I think is the earliest sellout they've had. And we've been paying attention to, the demand for tickets on the resale market this week, which is not something that we've really talked a lot in the past. So everything is trending incredibly well for this game. And I think a big part of that is both what the Bombers have done on the field, but also off the field. You've been watching this. It's obviously very, it's important to the league to have your team step forward. What can you say about just what the Bombers have done over the last 5 to 10 years and how they have, gone from a pretty tough situation into arguably the model franchise in the Canadian Football League?
Yeah, look, there is no doubt, and there will be, there's no real debate that what's happened in Winnipeg is special. I think you got to start at the very top, and you got to look at a board of governors that have been very effective, very supportive. Then your next stop has to be with Wade Miller. And you got to look at what Wade has done and how hard he has worked and how methodical he has been, how much attention, every detail he has brought. And then you look at Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea, and you kind of say, wow, it's a pretty cool organization, up and down, top to bottom. And that doesn't even begin to start. And then you got to start talking about players. You got a pretty good quarterback. I don't know if you've noticed, but you got a pretty good quarterback there in Zach Colaros. And then you got players like Adam Bighill and Willie Jefferson. And I could go on and on, like an amazing group of receivers. But it's all connected to two different ideas that I think are special, and Winnipeg helps to model. Our game, our product is fun, fast, and entertaining. And every one of those players I just mentioned, they fit perfectly in that model. And then our connection to the community is so reason to watch, fun, fast, and entertaining, reason to care, our connection to the community. And the Bombers do both of those exceptionally well.
Randy Ambrosie, CFL Commissioner, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk as we get ready for the Banjo Bowl kickoff Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. at IG Field. And things will get going a couple hours early over there in the Princess Auto tailgate zone. Randy, just back to tomorrow's game. Pete Robertson is suspended for the game. And we've obviously talked about the play, and that's you guys made a decision on that. He's been suspended for the game. Just wanted to ask you about how all that works. When an incident like that happens, does that go to the officiating department of the league, or is that a decision that ultimately lies with the commissioner?
Well, under the terms of our Constitution, the ultimate authority for discipline rests with the commissioner. And so in that case, I have to make the final decision. But it really, it starts with our officiating crew because they will, they do a recap of the game. That report goes obviously to the head of football operations, to Greg Dick and his group. They start the investigation. Look, I think we can clearly say that we should have had that player ejected. We know that. To Greg Dick's infinite credit, to Darren Hackwood's, Darren's responsible for our officiating. We now know we should have ejected the player for that particular play. It didn't happen. There's a learning there, and we'll improve. But once the incident is in the hands of the football operations department, they start what we call the pursuit of it's called a decision tree, and it basically takes into account a whole bunch of factors, and it's very methodical, and it gives a recommendation for a potential discipline. Then there's a hearing, and there was a hearing held. We're looking at two things as it relates to this phase. We're looking at the player's track record. Is there a history of incidents? And the other is just what I might call a sense of awareness of what's happened. And you can kind of fall into one of two categories, remorse and contrition on one end of the continuum, and I don't have a clue what I did wrong on the other end of the continuum, and then that leads to a recommendation to me, and one that I make the final decision on. The thing that's important is, look, we're not running a kangaroo court here. We apply a lot of discipline and a lot of process to this. Why? Because nobody wants us to act in anger. Nobody wants us to be subject to the vagaries of noise. We have to be thoughtful. We have to be disciplined in the way we pursue the discipline. And I think, frankly, a real credit to Greg Dick and his crew. And in this case, it appears for the most part that people think we largely got that right. And I hope the one thing that I'm hoping for more than anything is that everyone understands that there's no place in our game. That has absolutely zero place in our game, and we can't allow that kind of thing to happen in our league. And that's what we'll talk about this offseason. Is do we need to think about intensifying our focus on that kind of after the play behavior that bears no resemblance to the quality of our product.
Randy, I appreciate you kind of, explaining how all that works. There was no appeal in this case, but if a team or a player, I guess the CFLPA wants to appeal, does that appeal go to you, or is that an appeal to a third party? How does that work?
Well, they can actually pursue one of two paths. It can be appealed to an arbitrator, and there can be appeal directly to the commissioner. In this case, no appeal's been filed.
Randy, I've got to ask you about the league overall. We've got 9 teams, and I know it's a quest of yours and many people that love this game to get to 10 and have it truly be coast to coast. How was Touchdown Atlantic this year, and what can you tell us about the pursuit of Team 10 out on the East Coast?
Yeah, well, Touchdown Atlantic was amazing, and we were so welcomed. And there was a remarkable atmosphere in Halifax and all over the Maritimes that during that week. And, again, both the Riders and the Argos did an amazing job of representing our league as the two opponents in that game. Look, there's a lot of really positive things going on in Atlantic Canada as it relates to our game. Ultimately, I think we've made real progress. We are having conversations that lead me to believe that there's a real chance that we can get this done. But, football fans know that you can, if you're down by 6 and you're marching the ball, you can get all the way from your 20 to the red zone. But if you don't score, you don't score. So this is one of those times that, close. How does that phrase go? Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Yeah. Is that the right expression? So close isn't what we're looking for. Done is what we're looking for. And I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. We're certainly talking to the right people. And now we got to see if we can take that next big step.
Randy Ambrosie's with us. Randy, you kind of touched on this briefly when we were talking about the schedule, but I wanted to dive into it a little bit more. I mean, takeaways from the first, 2/3 of the season. But if you could start with the TV results, ratings that you've got, what was a really interesting move. I know we haven't had any Sunday games here in Winnipeg, but it sure has been fun to watch them on the tube. How have things gone with your TV partners this year and the ratings for people tuning into CFL football?
Yeah, well, I was with Stu Johnson, the president of TSN, just about 10 days ago, and it was a really nice time to be together because we spent considerable time just talking about just how spectacular the ratings have been, how great the product has been. The games have been fun, fast, and exciting and entertaining. I think that, there's a lot of reason to feel really good. Look, again, you have to step back from it all and say, look, the real credit always begins with our governors, who even through the pandemic and those more difficult days, were thinking about the future of the league, and they were making investments in our business, investing in our ability to reach out to fans, to connect with fans. You yourself, here we are on the show. Think about how much the media has changed. So we haven't taken a back seat to the media change. We haven't taken a backseat to the changing landscape. What we did is started to invest in different ways of communicating, different ways of reaching our fans. And I think we're starting to see, the byproduct of all of those efforts. And again, it starts with the governors, the investments they're making. And then you look at our team presidents, Wade and his colleagues and the work they're doing. Hey, it was not that long ago. This. It wasn't that long ago that the first question I got asked pretty much every interview is, what are you going to do about your major markets? Because they're behind. And all of a sudden today, here we are. Pierre-Karl Palado joins the family this winter. And what an amazing thing that is to have Pierre-Karl in Montreal and then, go across to BC and what Amar Doman, is doing there. And then Toronto. And there's an energy in Toronto. If you watched that game a week ago, last Friday, that game, Calgary, Toronto, was spectacular. There was a much bigger crowd. There's a lot of energy there. They just signed their contract to a long-term contract. There's, I'm thinking, boy, a shout out to Bill Manning, a shout out to Chris Schufeld, a shout out to Michael Clements, a great coaching staff and a great team. There's good things happening across the country, but our major markets are now, really heading in the right direction. So, boy, there's lots of reasons to get up and smile these days.
Listen, I mean, I think everyone that, that loves this league and wants it to be healthy is happy to see things getting better. And listen, as much as we in Winnipeg love to see the Edmonton team that was so good for so long lose a bunch of games, it was concerning, to see kind of the direction of where that team was. But it's amazing what a couple wins will do, huh? We had Dustin Nielsen who was doing the game, and obviously I do a lot of work with him. He said that, when the Elks finally won that home game and that, that streak that went on forever, he said that was like a real special moment. And all of a sudden you've got a talented young quarterback there, a little bit of belief going forward after such an unfortunate time for that franchise. And I'm sure from your perspective, I mean, a healthy Edmonton Elks team, very important for the CFL.
Well, it sure is. And it's not just Edmonton. Look, what is this: not everyone's going to win the Grey Cup in a year. One team is going to win and 8 teams aren't. Where you get frustrated or a little concerned is when teams have, not just disappointing records, but terrible records. And that if they do that more than one season in a row, that starts to, weigh on the fan base. Look, I think in Edmonton, what's really cause for optimism. It's a big fan base, but they also have an expectation for a certain level of performance. That's what happens when you're the city of champions, right? As they were long noted. But it's also a sports town, a lot like Winnipeg. It's a sports town. They love their sports, but they have a high standard of expectation there. So look, Rick Lawlisher's in the seat now. I'm really happy to see Rick there. Tom Richards as the chair of their board. There's a lot of really good things happening. And then you nailed it, young, phenomenal quarterback Trey Ford, and you got that reason to believe. That's a powerful combination.
Well, not to mention young, but a Canadian quarterback too. And we saw what Nathan Rourke did last year. I mean, that's one thing that we didn't see for a long, long time in this league. And I think it certainly bodes well for the future of the CFL. Commissioner Randy Ambrosie is with us. Randy, what are the challenges right now? We've talked a lot about the real positives. I know that there was, the stats issue was something I'm sure that kept you up at night at times. I mean, when you look at, going back to work next week, what are the things that you're focused on improving, or maybe your goals for the rest of this year?
Yeah, well, look, it's about executing on our plan. And really that's what the board of governors are holding me accountable for, is we have a business plan and they want us to deliver on that plan. I'm really pleased with our working relationship with this. Is an amazing board. They have set high expectations for us. I hold myself and our team accountable to those, to the plan that we've got in front of them. I think there's a really healthy relationship, a really positive relationship there. So you get up every day, you look at our strategy, you look at the business plan, you look at the goals that we set for the year, and are we on track? Where do we need to improve? we try to take a very disciplined approach to making sure we're doing the things that are going to give us the greatest chance for success. But some of what keeps me up is not what we know, it's what we don't know. It's the world is in a state of change. Look, for example, at the issue of air quality. It wasn't that long ago, the idea that you may or may not be able to play a game or hold a practice because you've got smoke in the air was not something that we thought about. And all of a sudden it's become a more common occurrence. And we're having to learn. I think that's the lesson is how do you stay ahead of the curve? How do you learn? How do you follow best practices? How do you create best practices? So, there are definitely things that we need to continue to work on, but I wake up every day. I'm so lucky. I feel blessed to work with an amazing group of people. I think about Wade and what he's done in Winnipeg, but Wade's got 8 other great colleagues around the country, great group governance. And then, you know what? I think it is the funnest, fastest, most entertaining brand of gridiron football in the world. The funnest, fastest, and most entertaining. I believe that's what we have. And I think everybody who likes football anywhere in the world should want to be a CFL fan.
Well, and you know what? If people haven't seen the CFL, hopefully they'll see the scene tomorrow in Winnipeg, because that will be the definition of fun, I think, both on and off the field. Commissioner Ambrosie, thank you very much for doing this. Enjoy Super Saturday tomorrow in the Canadian Football League, and hopefully we can catch up a little later on closer to the Grey Cup.
I'd like that.
All right, have a great one.
Thanks. I won't be there in person, but I will be there in spirit. But I will be in front of my I'll be in front of my TV watching every moment of it. So, best wishes to you and all of all the Bomber fans. It's going to be a special weekend.